All right, all right. What's going on, everyone? This is a conversation that's been hot for a very long time, reparations, especially in the Black community. Now, it's now making headways around the world. Anytime the Foundation of Black Americans, aka Freedmen Americans, anytime we make a topic the subject for America, it gets highlighted because we continue to beat the drum. We continue to bring those things to the forefront in order to get the justice, in order to get the reparations, or in order to get the attention that it all needs. Now, as I'm going through some of my notes here, we know that Joe Biden is now giving $55 billion in reparations to the African continent by the way of investments. I know a lot of times when the headlines come out, they're not telling the whole story, but essentially he's investing $55 billion in the African continent by the way of solar panels. Now we're going to dive into people in certain communities within the Black community, some of them being non-immigrant, meaning foundational Black Americans, with a lot of plebiscite babble, people, unfortunately, from the Moorish American community and other Black communities speaking against reparations, okay? It's quite daunting that when the majority of foundational Black Americans state what reparations is, the first initial thing we speak about is a direct cash payment for the descendants of American slaves. Whether you have one parent or two who is the descendant and you're through the loins of that person, that you are owed reparations. We don't use language like, give us reparations or you should. No, we are owed reparations for the atrocities and the work, the blood, sweat, and tears of our ancestors that Native Americans receive each and every year from the federal government. Now, I'm gonna jump right in here. We're gonna get hot and heavy, family, because this is important that we understand that we have all these groups out here speaking for us, but no one is speaking to us about what reparations is. And that is by design. That is by design because they understand what the masses are speaking about within our community. We're speaking about cash payments. We have people like Faison Love going on Vlad TV talking about, no, fuck $223,000 to the descendants of American slaves in the state of California. We shouldn't pay taxes. See, this is a stupid babble we get from people who, quote unquote, are not foundational Black Americans who have been sold out to the coon train. Someone like Faison Love, who is Cuban. He's a Cuban American. And he looks like the state of Cuba when you see how big the guy's gotten. Nonetheless, maybe maybe he's going through something with his life, especially going on Vlad TV, knowing Vlad TV has been setting up Black Americans going to jail, getting them indicted, RICO charges putting on them. So he is already discredited from the get-go, okay? So let me get here, family, because this topic is very important this evening. I know people within the Foundation of Black American community, Tariq Nasheed, Jason Black, Professor Black Truth. I just saw some great information over at TD Hip Hop, his channel, giving out really good information about reparations in general, family. So let me make sure I got my things here straight before we get into it, because I really want to show you some things here. Here we go. Now, first of all, I kind of want to jog your memory with Joe Biden. Can you hear that, family? Let me make sure you can hear that. Let me make sure you can hear that. I'm not hearing any sound on my side. Give me 1 second here. All right, we have sound over here. Here we go.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't Black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact
If you're trying to figure out who you're for between me and Trump, then you ain't Black. I just want to keep that in the forefront of your mind here. Let's move on. Fair use, fair use.
I have more people supporting me in the Black community that have announced for me because they know me. They know who I am. 3 former chairs of the Black Caucus, the only African-American woman that ever been elected to the United States Senate, a whole range of people.
No,
my point is
that's not true. The other one is here.
I said the first. I said the first African first. So my point is.
All right. So automatically, we need to understand, family, that Joe Biden believes he has the Black American community in his back pocket because 87% of us went out and voted for him. When I say 87%, I mean the collective. I don't mean me. I don't mean you. I just mean those who voted nonetheless. But we're going to go through some information I think is very, very staggering because not only Joe Biden, a large group, now I don't have a figurative number, from the Moorish American Science Temple, whatever, are speaking out not simply against reparation, but misinforming the public. And see, here's the thing about the American government. They know who to go to speak about reparations. They don't go to the people who are speaking about direct cash payments. They're speaking to people talking about no taxes or school vouchers or a housing voucher or low interest loans. None of that is reparations because, family, when you look at other aggrieved groups by the American government and shit, not even aggrieved groups by the American government, like those Holocaust survivors who are here in America, where Obama gave them $12+ million to live a better life in America. Former reparations for them being aggrieved in Germany nonetheless. And I'm not against that. Native Americans till this day gets reparations day in, day out, every single year. They are part of the federal budgets of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars each year. I'm not hating. What I am saying is when people ask me what reparations is, I say, well, first of all, when you think about the amount of money that our forefathers built for this country, not help build, we started the initial foundation of this country, the amount of wealth that this country had accumulated since day one, since 1775, 1776, we're talking about $85 trillion that needs to be divided up to 40 to 50 million Black Americans who are descendants of American slaves, okay? That's the first thing. Then you can start to mirror our reparations package just like the Native Americans, because people always talk about Native Americans, oh, they take their checks and they have one of the highest rates of alcoholism within their community. Yeah, but they also, on the other side of the spectrum, have build casinos and other organizations that bring in revenue the upwards of hundreds of billions of dollars. When you go to a Native American reservations, first of all, you do not pay taxes. So when Faison loves talking about, oh, we shouldn't pay taxes, well, what about those Black Americans who he is not a Black American? What about those Black Americans who are destitute? Dilapidated ghettos and hoods, people who are homeless. What about those people who actually need cash payments? I heard some Moorish Americans talking about give us gold bullion and Troy ounce silver. I collect those things because I deal within the financial world, but I know those things are not interchangeable within the market, within the free market that we operate in. Under the Constitution, the fiat dollar is the currency. The green mean money machine is the currency. You can't just go out and take 1 ounce of silver. You can't just go out and take 1 ounce of gold and buy something at your local shop. You can't go and buy investments with gold and silver because gold and silver is an investment itself. And here's another thing about gold and silver, family. The price of gold and silver virtually has not changed in the last 10 to 20 years. So I don't want gold and silver. I want cash payments. That's right. I want fiat currency. Because guess what? When I go to Costco's, when I go to a dealership, guess what they want? They want fiat currency. That's the mean green money machine. That's the dollar bill, the 20 bill, the $100 bill, so on and so forth. I say, hey man, I got 2 tons of gold. They're like, what are we gonna do with that? What are we gonna do to that? And here's another thing, family. The amount of money that Black Americans are owed, they do not even have that weight in gold. If you look at any of the Federal Reserve documents that they release, every 3 to 5 years, you will know that America essentially only has a portion of the world's gold, which accumulates around 16 trillion tons of gold. Now, when you equal that to dollars, we're looking at a virtual equivalency of 0 because no one is trading gold and silver on a consumer level. Gold and silver was to back fiat currency. At the turn of the century, gold and silver was to back fiat currency, and that's where we're not understanding about money.
Address at the three-day U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit, President Biden told the crowd the United States is, quote, all in on Africa's future, pitching the U.S. as a reliable partner to promote democratic elections and push critical health and energy growth. Biden told the crowd that Monday's announcement of $55 billion in investments over the next 3 years was, quote, just the beginning, promising more than $15 billion in private trade and investment commitments, as well as partnerships.
So what is this thing about what Biden is doing right now? What is this thing about what Biden is doing right now, family? This is to gain a foothold into Africa because of one thing and one thing only: resources. Africa is rich of resources in all of its 50 plus countries. And you know who have been reaping the benefits of investing in Africa for the past 20 years? China. Now, whether the deals are blood diamond deals, whether the deals are hook and crook deals, nonetheless, China paid attention to the global markets enough to go into Africa and invest in infrastructure for their minerals, for their natural resources. And they have been quadrupling their GDP year after year after year, to a point where China is a superpower economically and very close to overtaking the GDP of America. Then all of a sudden, reparations is the new topic, and Joe Biden goes in with a measly $55 billion to invest in Africa. This is more like an appetizer for Africa, right? With all the countries and all the resources that they have. But this is to tantalize the African leaders in order to allow America to go in and make some of these sweetheart deals that they've been making with China. Now, if you kind of read the stories around this, family, you will see that African leaders don't solely want to go with America. They want to allow other investors, they want to allow other countries to come in so that they can make top dollar. But your boy Joe Biden, I'm trying to tell you, you guys who voted, I hope you woke the hell up by now.
Signing the historic Memorandum of Understanding with the new African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat. This MOU will unlock new opportunities for trade and investment between our countries and bring Africa and the United States even closer than ever. We're finally implementing the African Continental Free Trade Area. It will represent one of the largest free trade areas in the world, 1.3 billion people, and a continent-wide market totaling $3.4 trillion. Today, the Millennium Challenge Corporation signed its first ever regional transport compact with the governments of Benin and Niger. This compact will invest $500 million to build and maintain roads, put in place policies that reduce transportation costs, making it easier and faster for ships to ship goods from the port.
Absolutely boring. Joe Biden speaking on any level is absolutely boring. It's not even relevant information because it's all lies. See, it amazes me how last month, the rally for reparations that happened in my hometown, D.C., downtown, about near the mall, near the Capitol, how that really didn't get too much news coverage. I think the only major news network that covered it, I forgot the name. I think NPR. NPR is the only one who covered it, who's a national news service, and actually did an article on it, a very wonderful article nonetheless. But a lot of news agencies, whether it be CNN, Fox, CNBC, MSNBC, ABC, blah, blah, blah. You get what I'm getting at, family. And the reason why they didn't do that, because they do not want this reparation thing to take off. That's because America in the system of white supremacy is inherently anti-black. Is inherently anti-black. And we all know that. A lot of times we try to defend America. I've even heard black people talking about, oh, America is not racist. Get the fuck out of here. Benign neglect occurs on every level, local, state, and federal, when it comes to justice and it comes to economic empowerment in the black community. I can go through a whole laundry list of how they have literally destroyed the black community by influxing communities with immigrants from Asia, from the Caribbean, and also from Africa, literally Europe, all these countries around the world. They have fled the black communities, destroyed the black businesses, and allowed them to build economic powerhouses. And guess who's driving the force in the black communities? Of these Asian stores, of these European stores, of these Caribbean stores, of these African stores? Black Americans. They have not allowed you to build within your own community, but thus turn the cold shoulder, throw the rock, hide the hand when we start talking about reparation and what is owed to us. This is what they do. And they get their little minions out here that look like us, who talk like us, but they're not for us. And that is the most important thing. Okay? That's not being exploited throughout all of media. They're not doing that, family. Let me continue here. I see your comments. I'm going to address them here in a second. Now, here's a story that came out from the dailymail.co UK. And it says, my nation's original sin, right? Biden apologized to delegation of African leaders for the unimaginable cruelty of slavery and offered them $55 billion as Rwandan president mocked us in front of the laughing crowd. Now, out of all the African leaders, I will say I've studied a little bit about Paul Kagame, who's the president of Rwanda, who's done a tremendous job from a dictator standpoint, nonetheless, but see, anytime we say dictator, automatically we think in a cruel person who just wants power. I don't believe that when I study Paul Kagame, but I digress. I don't know the intertwines of that government in that country, but I know it is the cleanest country in Africa, okay? But let me move on here. So he states an apology to Africa, but not to Black Americans. The descendants of American slaves that live right here on U.S. soil, which you are the president, and 87% of that population boosted your campaign in order for you to be elected president. No acknowledgement. Even though I don't even care about the acknowledgement, cut the check. That's what we need to be talking about. Let me move on here, though, family. Here we go. Joe Biden on Wednesday apologized for the unimaginable cruelty of slavery, which he referred to as America's original sin, and pledged $55 billion in investment to the continent. It goes on to say here that the first since Barack Obama convened a summit in 2014, Biden expressed regret for the past, but insisted the United States is all in on Africa's future. Okay? Goes on to say, during a White House dinner honoring African leaders and their spouses, Biden addressed what he called America's original sin, the enslavement of millions of people, and honored their descendants and the broader African diaspora community in the United States of America. So he's honoring us. How do you honor people? How do you repair people? In America, the only way that I've seen throughout history that you honor and you repair an aggrieved group is by cash payments. Please, someone correct me if I'm wrong. Because when you get up on the podium, you get up behind the mic and you say, our people lie at the heart of the deep and profound connection that forever binds Africa and the United States together. We remember the stolen men and women and children were brought to our shores and chained, subjugated to imaginable cruelty. Yeah, we are the descendants of those men, women, and children that you have yet to give us what is owed, reparations. See, when we look at this at a very low level, this is very disrespectful. I mean, I got some dudes back in the day, man, this is disrespectful as hell. Where instead of going to the group that's being aggrieved day in, day out in this country, and who are the descendants of those stolen men, women, and children and went through this unimaginable cruelty, you go to the continent where there were some African tribes and nations that sold us and traded us, okay, but the Europeans still stole and traded those who stole and traded us, okay? So I'm not stating that our African brothers and sisters on, continent-wide did this, but there's proof that there are some tribes who did that. But you go to the continent where we have been traded and sold versus coming to the aggrieved group who is still suffering from the ramifications of their ancestors being in slavery. Make that make sense. Someone help me make that make sense. Because we're talking about a benign neglect policy that has been happening ever since we landed on these shores. That is what's going on. So let me move down here just a little bit. Of course, family, you got your symbolism. They got to put black people on stage. Everyone's smiling. I don't know who's happy. No one. But let me play some of this for you real quick.
Of the deep and profound connection that forever binds Africa and the United States together. We remember the stolen men and women and children were brought to our shores in chains, subjected to unimaginable cruelty. My nation's original sin was that period. We honor their descendants who are for generations have helped build this country and propel it to higher heights.
Hold on.
Leading the charge.
Hold on. I know this can be argued, family. I know it can be argued when he states that our ancestors helped build the country. No, we built the country. We built the country. Our ancestors built the country, not helped build it. Now, everybody else came over and maybe you added a brick here and maybe a railroad track there, but the infrastructure of America was already built prior to all these other groups coming over. FYI.
Trails and forging a better future for everyone in America. To our shores in chains, subjected to unimaginable cruelty. My nation's original sin was that period. Raising your glass to the people of America, to the people of the United States, to the people of Africa, and to the promise and potential of our partnership. Hear, hear.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. You reach out to the African continent and apologize to them by the way of the enslaved Africans that were taken from the continent, brought to America, but we don't get that same investment because we don't even want it. We want our reparations, cash a check. You apologize to them and you start to invest $55 billion, which is a drop in the bucket when you're talking about the $3.4 trillion that the African continent, actually accrues each and every year, and it's rising because of the investment that China has made within the African continent. But of course, China is also, and this is not conjecture, this is actual proof that China has been stealing all sorts of resources, right? Not even right under the nose of Africans and within different prospective countries. But from what I've learned, these African leaders know what's going on, but the Chinese and parts of the government has been fattening the pockets of these leaders, so they allow it to happen nonetheless, okay? Let me move on here. Well, at least we had a good meeting. Who said this? Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, because he was asked whether the 2014 summit yielded concrete results. Well, at least we had a good meeting, reply, and to laugh with those assembled. Why do you think Paul Kagame said that, family? Why do you think Paul Kagame said that? Let me tell you why he said that. Because he's not a damn fool. He understands that when these non-African melanated people come inside Africa, they're there for one reason and one reason only, and that's the resources. And that's why he laughed. Because you're not just giving us money, you're not just giving us attention because you are sorry of the transatlantic slave trade and the unimaginable cruelty that the Europeans have done to my people. No. You're here for money. You're here for resources. You're here to make a dollar. You're here to make a buck. That is why they're there, family, because we looked at China for the past 20 or 30 years because Chinese investors every 3 years, that's accompanied by the Chinese government, every 3 years meet with African leaders of how to improve the infrastructure in Africa and what the Chinese are going to get by doing so. This is not conjecture. This is not my opinion. These are facts. Look it up for yourself. It states here, Biden's outreach attempt was seen by many as a way of limiting the power of China, which has invested more in Africa than any other nation. Look at when China started to invest in the African continent, and then start looking how China's GDP has tripled and doubled over time. Beijing has held its own high-level meetings with African leaders every 3 years for over 2 decades. It also states here that Chinese trade with Africa is about 4 times that of the United States, and Beijing has become an important creditor by offering cheaper loans, okay? Cheaper loans. Now, some of these loans, even though they are cheaper, there are loan traps where they give African countries, let's say $50 billion, and they say, hey, $50 billion at 5%, we're gonna need this back in 5 years. That's quadrupling some of the African countries that they loan this money GDP. It's 4 times the GDP. Of course, China knows that they cannot pay the money back. Even some of these African countries know they can't pay the money back. I digress. That's a whole nother different video. I'll move on here, family, because there's a lot of information I kind of want to comb through for you guys to see, because now we're going to move into a segment, and I'm going to read your comments here pretty soon, of all these other people, all these other groups who are speaking on reparations, and they're not listening to the mass majority of foundational Black Americans, AKA U.S. freedmen, AKA the descendants of American slaves. Let me show you. Here we go. Ilarosa signs Providence $10 million reparation budget, family. Yep. $10 million in reparations budget. It states here, Mayor Jorge Ilarosa signed the city's $10 million reparations budget on Friday. The signing comes after months of meetings by a commission that determined how the American Rescue Plan Act funds will be spent on what has been formally dubbed the COVID-19 Equities Program. It says that Ilarosa says that when the process began, it was met with a whole lot of skepticism. Why? First of all, family, 10 million is not a lot of money. Okay, 10 million is not a lot of money, but I will not refuse the 10 million unless it's like this. Folks mention all of the reasons why it shouldn't be done. Why did they mention why shouldn't it be done? Let's comb into this a little bit more. What is the reparations package? Oh, large investment categories totaling 1 million or more. Each are home ownership and financial literacy. So reparations is now financial literacy. Now, when they speak about home ownership, are you stating that you're going to give back the land that your forefathers stole from our people? Or are you talking about home ownership loans, low interest loans, no interest loans? What are you referring to? Then they talk about financial literacy. Family, the reason why I can just go right back to how this is highly disrespectful to the Black community when people like this do these fake ass reparation packages is because no other group in America gets treated like this. You know what? Before we give you guys this money, we're going to make sure you have financial literacy classes. Well, personally, I don't need financial literacy, and let alone a large population of the Foundation Black American community does not need financial literacy classes, and let alone some of us ain't gonna go regardless. But that might be criteria for you to invest in all these other bull crap ass programs, which you consider reparations. And another thing, They just coming up with they believe reparations is. They're not even asking what reparations is. Workforce training. Can someone please explain to me in a very layman's terms what workforce training is? Have you guys ever applied for a job? Don't they give you on-the-job training? Workforce training. Some people's like, oh, they're talking about skilled trades. Oh, so now you want to make me a blue-collar worker. Once again, America gets rich off the backs of blacks. Small businesses, grants for businesses, cultural. I have no idea what cultural means, and social support organizations, and a United Way COVID-19 equity fund, though there aren't yet specific details on what that fund would entail. United Way, isn't that for everybody? See, family, when you comb inside of the vivid details that these reparation packages actually hold, you will start to see that it's a bunch of bull crap. Let me carry on here. Smaller items include within the reparations package, investments in media, scholarships, a policy and research center, and a special K-12 curriculums focused on New England history and the matter of truth report that influenced the reparations program. So reparation is now going to going to K through 12 curriculums. Why is it that every other group who has been aggrieved by the American government, by the U.S. American government, has received cash payments, but when it comes to giving us what we are owed, they tell us we're going to invest in media with the $10 million and scholarships, even though within Providence, Rhode Island, $10 million probably a third of their GDP. But nonetheless, that's my own conjecture and bias. But they're talking about a policy and research center. Policy and research center for who? Who is this policy and research center for? And what are the policies? What are you researching? It states here, right below here, family, the nearly 200-page document was released last year. They constructed a 200-page document on a reparations package where the people within the foundational Black American community are asking for one thing and one thing only: direct cash payments to start. All this other tenets of what they will believe a reparation package is, let's get the money first, and then you can start to construct policy and research centers and K through 12 curriculums. Because if you look at the reparations movement in California, they're getting very close to start paying out the descendants of American slaves $223,000, close to $250,000. See, cash payments, direct cash payments. Because, family, when we talk about these things, you're going to have people within the Black American community who the only thing they're going to do is go buy chains and rims. The only thing they're going to do is buy Balenciaga and Gucci. Okay, and? See, when they gave money and they continue to give money to the Native Americans, you know what they didn't say? The only thing they're going to do is go out and buy alcohol, right? Because there's a portion of the population that goes out and get lit, and there's another part of their population that goes out and build businesses by the way of casinos that brings in billions of dollars each year. Why? And here's the kicker, family. They're making billions of dollars each year with these casinos, and they pay $0 in taxes as long it's reservation land that the casino sits on. You know what we call that in America? You know what we call that in the financial world? We call that free money, because you are profiting off the money that you're investing in your business and is not being taxed by the American government. We call that free money. That's free money for you, family. So when people keep asking me, what is reparations? What are reparations? First thing is direct cash payments. Then we can talk about land grants and giving back this and yeah. We can talk about that. And when people say, what's the accumulation of the amount of money that has been occurring over the past 300, 400, 500 years, family, I hate to tell you, 18% each year at a total amount of $85 trillion. Now that number has astronomically went up because of inflation, but for a time maybe about 3 to 5 years ago, every foundational Black American should have been receiving or should have received a direct cash payment of at least from the federal government. We're not even talking about the states yet, of $350,000. Now, if Pookie, if Tanisha, Quanisha, if Tyrone, Jerome, they want to go out and buy old cars and put 34-inch rims on it, so be it. There's going to be a large population of the Black community that's going to go out and build businesses. You know why? I will be one. I will build more businesses. I will buy more land with the money. With the money. Everything that you're going to hear here tonight, family, you can do with the money. Don't let these people hoodwink you. Don't let these people trick you about, oh, reparation is student loan debt forgiveness. No, it's not. Just give me the money. I can pay off my student loans. Reparations is home ownership. I can buy a home. Just give me the money. Now, depending on where you are in California, $223. I don't know if you can even buy a condo, but nonetheless, I can always move somewhere and buy myself a house. Boy, oh boy.
The stolen men and women and children were brought to our shores in chains, subjected to unimaginable cruelty. My nation's original sin was that period. We honor their descendants who for generations have helped build this country.
Are the Dutch chipping in? What about the English?
We honor their descendants. We won't give them reparations. We'll honor them. How do America honors Black Americans, family? How does America honor you? Please tell me. Workforce discrimination, racial profiling, race soldiers killing our brothers and sisters in the street unarmed, killing them with impunity with qualified immunity, meaning that they kill us, and for the most part, and the vast majority of them get off and keep their jobs and never see any prison time.
What about the African chiefs who sold slaves to the West? Nope. We're going to get this check. So, are they going to get reparations in cash, gold, Bitcoin? No. Solar panels.
Today's announcement.
Trick bag.
Joint.
Trick bag. See, anytime, and hopefully, you know, our African brothers and sisters learn something from foundational Black Americans. Anytime that these European nations, and America is a European nation, by the way, anytime these European nations say they're going to give us something, look for the trick. And the trick is, yeah, we're going to give you guys $55 billion of investment in solar panels.
Join a portfolio of Partnership for Global Infrastructure Investment projects already underway in Africa, including mobilizing $8 billion in public and private finance to help South Africa replace coal-fired power plants with renewable energy sources and develop cutting-edge energy solutions like clean hydrogen.
Sorry about slavery. Here's a solar panel. And oh, if you work in a coal mine, you're fired. Is this?
You know, I'm not a big proponent of watching Fox News, but Jesse Waters here, he really made some good points, of course, with some racial undertones, but he made some good points here. And that's why we're going to watch just a little bit more of this, because I think he brings clarity. If you can get past that Fox News is a Republican-ran news source, but if you can get some clarity of what he's stating, then you'll know that this is just a big...
It's what Africa needs right now. You can't run a continent on green. You can't just skip industrialization and go straight to windmills. Africa's never going to get out of poverty by killing coal. Let's get the African economy spinning first before we start installing electric car charging stations along the Nile. Renewables are just a side dish. Fossil fuels, the main course. And I'm open to listening to people who feel black people are owed something from a country that enslaves their ancestors. But these green reparations are going to keep Africa in poverty. And what about slavery reparations in America? Because those are coming. Newsom in California wants to hand out $500 billion in reparations, $250,000 to any black person whose ancestors faced housing discrimination. That is a fortune. But a lot of California residents say that's not enough.
That's not a fortune. $223,000 in California, which I just came back a month ago. California is very expensive, family. I don't know if everyone has ever been to LA. LA is very expensive. I mean, astronomically expensive. I would not live there. And the only reason why I went, my wife took me for a birthday present because I said I'd never been to LA, I'd never been to Disney. So she took me, and I'm like, yeah, we're not coming back here. Okay. And if we do come back here, we're going to do the Euro trip or some shit. I don't know. But I want you guys to listen to this next part, because now we're going to start talking about people that are speaking for foundational Black Americans and what they believe reparations should be. And the American government knows what groups to go to in order to confuse the masses. See, some of you are focused on these very personal accounts of your life that you believe will be profitable for you, like student loan forgiveness. That's not reparations. Home ownership, that's not reparations. Because family, if any of us have done any historical research, you would notice that aggrieved groups from around the world, when a country state they're going to pay them and give them reparations, it comes in cash payments. Why all of a sudden for black folk in America, reparations is everything except cash payments? Now, you about to see a bunch of foolery. You about to see a bunch of coonery from these next people about what they believe reparations is. And I'm like, I definitely believe these are ops. I think they are paid for and bought bootlicks in order to confuse the majority of black people who knows, whether it be subconscious or conscious, that direct cash payments is actually what we are owed and is actually what we are need. Because here's the thing, family. When our ancestors were building America, from the ground up, the railroads, the White House, the Capitol, the mall, all of these things, we know what our family has done and has generated trillions of dollars in wealth. What does wealth equal? When we say people are wealthy, are we talking about the amount of money that they have in the bank? Are we talking about the assets they have in their portfolio? Are we talking about the liberty and freedom that they have in this country? We're talking about all of them.
So Newsom's reparations task force asked for advice from the community. What more can we do for you? And here's what they heard.
At the end of the day, any amount is too little and every amount is never enough.
Your job is to hear us. We will transparent.
What in the world? What in the world, family, when we go up and we say that any amount is too little? See, when you get Negroes on stage, for some reason, a lot of us want to perform versus speaking truth to power. give a specific dollar amount. That way we can be clear about what we are owed and what we need that was stolen from us, that we could never build generational wealth in this country. But you got people on stage talking about no amount is enough. Yes, it is.
First thing I said yesterday was the dead people in front of us. And we straight from my neighborhood, the dead homies. They will be respected to get reparations as well, to pass down to their people.
I think the reparations should be as follows. It's to be gifted to...
Hold on. Moorish American Science Temple alert. Moorish Temple, Moorish Science, whatever. Moorish American Science Temple alert. Family, listen to this and understand this is not what you want at all.
Us with gold and silver bullion to, as I said before, my antebellum slaves and ancestors and their heirs. It should be measured in the amount of 1 troy ounce of gold and silver per each antebellum slave and their descendants, according to the conditions of the mother for 16 generations.
The conditions of the mother. 16 ounces, bullion, silver, troy ounce. What the fuck is he talking? Excuse me. Oh, wow. What is he talking about? Family, when the last time you took gold and silver and you went to go buy a car? When the last time you took gold and silver and went to go buy a business and start a business? When the last time you used gold and silver? When the last time you took gold and silver and you deposited into your bank account and you had that on your debit card and you went to go buy something with gold and silver? Absolutely never. Absolutely never. Because here's the thing, everything that these people are talking about, what is the bottom line? The bottom line is, family, they want money. Because guess what? You get the gold and silver. Guess what you have to do in order to get money to use in this economy in the United States of America? You have to trade in your gold and silver in order to buy something. No one at your local shop, your local store, Best Buy, Amazon, no one is taking gold and silver, fool. Oh, well, gold and silver is the only true currency in America. No, it's not. According to the Constitution, the fiat dollar is. A lot of mercy.
That equals 1,724 metric tons of gold and silver.
Oh, my God.
So we're...
Now, family, this guard your spirit for this next one. Because this is what happens when you get these Moorish Americans, Science Temple, who is on stage.
We're asking that you give us reparations because...
First of all, he started off wrong. Give us reparation.
America is number one on God's list to be destroyed. So if you don't accommodate us and you don't assist us, just watch what our God is going to do to America.
America's benefiting.
So we are petitioning to the American government of the money that is owed to foundational Black Americans, and you automatically bring some sort of religion into it and then tell the American government while telling them what they're owed to us, that if you don't, which is a threat, watch what our God do to you. Now, I'm gonna send this video to my brother who kind of dwells in this whole Moorish American realm, and we have discussions all the time about it, and he knows my stance, and he knows, yeah, that's a conversation I'm gonna have off camera with him, but nonetheless.
From slavery and from what our ancestors did that we never got paid for. And I hope that you guys sue every other country that has benefited from slavery.
$200,000 is nothing for what my family has contributed to this country. We built this country, we serve this country honorably. We need reparations.
So
what? $200,000 is nothing for what our ancestors went through. Okay, then if $200,000 is nothing, then what's the number? See, what happens is they probably pre-interview these guys and ask them what they're going to say. And they say, oh, yeah, we definitely want you on because you haven't given any specific number, but you tell us $200,000 is nothing. Yes, the hell it is. Now, you may have to move out of California to do anything with the money.
reparations for my dead brothers and sisters, reparations in gold bars. And if you don't pay up, God is going to strike you down. It's going to be a fun debate. This reparations pack.
See, those are those racial undertones I was talking about that Jesse Waters, but he's clowning these people because how does this sound in an economic system where we use fiat dollars for each and everything? If you work for an organization or business, what do you get paid in? You get paid in American dollars. You don't get paid in gold and silver because we do not use gold and silver on an everyday basis. Back in 1971, Nixon took us off the backing of gold and silver, and now we are the backing of the fiat currency, which we know as the American dollar. So I don't know what the hell these March Americans are talking about. If anything, they're confusing people who was directly steadfast on cash payments.
Package is going to make COVID relief look teensy. And do you think there's going to be a little fraud? I mean, this is the same state that brought you the $2 million public toilet, the $400 million suicide net, and who gives you $1,200 a month.
But anyway, family, he goes on a ramble and kind of tries to really make California look, worse than what they already are. Now, the Coon Award for this week goes to Faison Love. First of all, strike one, he went on Vlad TV. Strike two, he's speaking about reparations for Californians, which he is a Cuban American, not a foundational Black American. So he really had no right to speak on reparations in the first place. But because of Black people, you have the freedom of speech. And family, I know I said some very degrading things about Faison Love because he looked like a swollen hamburger. He looks like a honey sweet roll that was pumped up with flour, and he looks like he's high, drunk, and tired. With that being said, I'll let the brother finish.
Do some actually push for over a reparations program that, well, we posted this, and one of the people that was actually in the committee responded and kind of corrected what we said. And what she said was she's part of this committee, and based on economists that they have hired to basically look into reparations and the housing wealth gap and so forth, the economists have recommended $223,000 per person in California who is a descendant of slavery.
Fuck that $223,000. You know what it is? Fuck that. That's another trick bag. You know why? Because that money's gonna go right back to Cadillac, right back to motherfucking Benz.
So what? So what? So what if someone wants to take their $223,000 and buy them an S550 Mercedes? So what if somebody wants to go out and buy them a 7 Series 740 fully loaded BMW? So what? Is their reparations? They can do what they want to do with it. We got to stop having these non-FBA people speak on reparations. And then those FBAs who speak on reparations and don't know what the hell they're talking about. A lot of times I take these pauses, family, and it's simply because I'm thinking, don't say that. Don't say that, Ross. Don't say it.
Fuck that. You know what it should be? Black people should be tax exempt.
He said Black people should be tax exempt. Hey, fool, what if you don't have any money? What if you don't have a job? Now, we would like to believe that all homeless people and now I'm just going to speak to the black community, that all black Americans who are homeless are strung out on drugs and alcohol. And that is the reason why they're in the conditions that they are. And we know that's not to be true. We know a lot of you possibly fell on hard times, lost your job, couldn't pay your rent, couldn't pay your mortgage, got put out, had to live with a family member, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And right now, a lot of you are probably still looking for jobs. What would $223,000 do for you? You probably take your shit and leave California, buy you a condo, maybe a small house, maybe build a business. There's a lot of things you can do with almost $250,000. But what can you do if reparations is not paying taxes and you don't even have a job to pay the taxes with? What the fuck is he talking about?
Because when you were a slave, you were tax write-offs. The taxes were created to fund the Civil War.
Yeah, slaves were a tax write-off, but slaves were also property. Slaves were also human beings that generated wealth by plowing the fields, planting the corn, that was picking the cotton, that was taking care of kids, that was building railroads and building and houses and all these other things. What are you talking about, Faison? See, family, a lot of times these entertainers get on TV, and because they're black, the dominant society believe that they're speaking for all black people. Let me tell you, dominant society, Faison Love is speaking only to Faison Love. Don't go to sleep.
Number two.
Taxes have always been around.
No.
I mean, they were created specifically for the Civil War. Maybe there might be new taxes, but taxes have always been around in any government system.
The British tax was something different. The American tax came when they needed to fund the Civil War.
I mean, you needed tax period to fund a government before the Civil War.
Up, it was
who paid for the salaries of all the civil workers around the country?
Oh, that was us. That was us, Vlad. We were the civil workers.
Okay, what about in the North? Who was paying where slavery wasn't allowed? Who was paying for the roads? And the school.
Oh my God!
But they just paid for themselves. There was no taxes.
Yes,
really?
There was no taxes.
The road. So money just appeared, and they took that money and built roads with it.
It's called commerce.
Oh my God! And unfortunately, Vlad is destroying Faison Love no taxes, right? Because he absolutely doesn't know what he's talking about. You cannot argue with direct cash payments. You can't do that. I'm gonna let this finish out because some of you may be interested in what this fool has to say.
Taxes.
No, it's not. Taxes was created. The income tax and the federal was created during the Civil War to fund.
Okay, I looked it up. You're right. The income tax was created to fund the Civil War, but taxes as a whole were.
It was at this moment that he knew he fucked up.
Around
the British brought the taxes over with that bullshit from Rome.
The income tax started in 1861 to fund the Civil War. You're actually right. So we're kind of both right, but you make a good point. I got it.
Thank you.
Yes, you got it.
I think that Vlad just kind of wanted to end the argument on that because that made absolutely no sense. But anyway. Let me read some of your comments before I finish up here. Well, let me just cover one more thing here, family. I'm about to get out of here, but let me cover one more thing. And I stated this early in the video. I was talking about what does reparations look like besides direct cash payment that should be the first thing. And let me tell you what some of you probably already know, mimicking the reparations package that the Native Americans, the 500 plus federally recognized tribe receive each and every year, right? I'm not going to give you the numbers. I'm just going to give you what it covers, right? It states right here from benefits.gov, which is a federal government website, by the way of the Bureau of Indian Affairs, it states that Financial Assistance and Social Services Program provides assistance to federally recognized American Indian and Alaskan Natives, right? General assistance, cash assistance, family, cash assistance to meet essential needs of food, clothing, shelter, and utilities. What did it say? It said cash. Did it say gold? Did it say Bitcoin? Here's the thing about Bitcoin. On this financial channel, I really haven't been doing any financial videos because the market has been absolutely bonkers. But nonetheless, Bitcoin is digital currency. Any hacker can go on Bitcoin with all the 256-bit encryption. But at the end of the day, family, they can delete Bitcoin. They can delete Bitcoin. Just like you have a Word document on your fucking computer, they can delete Bitcoin because it's digital. Anything digital can be deleted. Don't have anyone fool you that Bitcoin is essential to the American economy, because right now the American government is making restrictions and federal guidelines governing Bitcoin, right? Cryptocurrency, so they can control it, so they can regulate it. Right? They're not going to have a free market of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies this plow their way through America where people are making hundreds and thousands and millions of dollars and no one's paying taxes. Hell no. That's not going to happen in America. The only thing that's essential that came out of cryptocurrency, in my opinion, which I know today, is blockchain technology, which is basically security for cryptocurrencies, but they can use it in other business functions and computer programming and software with other organizations. But again, I want you to focus on cash assistance. See, $350,000 or $223,000 by the way of California, that is the first initial direct payment. And I'm not speaking that $223,000 goes to everyone in America. That's on a state level. I'm talking about on a federal level. Now, the number I've been using for maybe the past 2 years, and I'm gonna be real with you, it's kind of outdated, was $350,000. But if you tack on the $350,000 that you should be receiving from the federal government, if you are Foundational Black America, tacked on with your state government giving you, again, for example, California, $223,000, you telling me you can't do anything with that money? But some of us in the Black community, the only thing he's going to go do is buy some red bottoms. The only thing he's going to go do is buy some TVs. So what? We're the only group in the world that gets treated like this day in and day out. Now, as I told you before, family, I'm going to read some of your notes here. All right. I'm going to go up here, family. I know we got a lot of notes. People have been commenting. Red Wine says, I'm on more, but it's not speaking against reparation, brother. It's all about them giving you what belongs to you. Okay? Jermaine Anderson, thank you for moderating, sir. I made Red Wine Entertainment a moderator as well. Congrats, sister. She says, like instead of reparation, it's your birthright to have freedom and prosperity because this is our land and the land does not belong to the government. They are occupying our land. I know what realm you dwell in, sister. I'm not speaking out against that. This is simply about cutting the check, okay? All right, let's see here. I see OG Mods in the room. Nice to see you. So basically, I see a lot of people having a conversation with themselves, which is perfectly fine. OG Mods says, I have a question about 40 acres. Maybe you can help me understand something. I'm 18 trying to, I guess, fight or write for my FBA brothers and sisters. It's not a matter of what 40 acres, not the accumulative, but the actual price of what 40 acres is, because we know that's going to differ from state, county, and area in which you live. So 40 acres could be anywhere from $50,000 to $5 million. So it just depends on where you live. But according to Special Order number 15, 40 acres is what we are owed as well. But we know the amount of wealth that this country has built on the ancestors of Foundational Black America. And there's a number that is still increasing day by day that we are owed. Until they pay that, that is what we are owed, okay? Red Wine says that they use religion to deceive the masses. Of course they do. She also says that your money is now backed by gold and silver. We understand that there's supposedly a tide that's changing back and forth, that America is, or the world rather, is moving away from fiat currency and back to the gold and silver standard. Let's just take, for instance, that's true. They're still going to use fiat currency. No one is going to be in ancient Africa or ancient Rome walking around with a purse. Now we name it for men a merce, but the first original purse were used by men because men are the ones who worked and had all the money, and the women stayed inside of their respective places, barefoot, pregnant, and making meals, so to speak. But nonetheless, family, is still going to be backed by gold and silver. But what is the currency we're going to use day to day? No one's going to be carrying around pieces of gold and pieces of silver. It's just not going to happen. Okay. Let's state here. It says, Red Wine says right now we are going back to the gold standard. Okay. I'm just reading some of your notes. If you guys have anything that you guys want to say here, please let me know. I'll read it aloud here. Red Wine said, I do not focus on that. I know that the land can't be bought, sold, or transferred. And OG Moss says the amount is in the trillions. Now, and I understand, believe me, when I tell you this, family, I understand the argument. I understand the debate that Moorish Americans have about, I don't want to get into it, okay? Because when it comes to plebiscite Bible, by the peace and friendship treaty of Morocco, some Moors believe we're in Morocco, that America is an extension of Morocco. That's not what the peace and friendship treaty actually states. It's basically Morocco recognized America as a country when no one else would, and that also allowed American ships as well as Moroccan ships not to be pirated by each opposing country. Okay, so I mean, we can get into all the babble, how Turtle Island, and listen, my brother who's deeply involved in the Moorish American Science Temple movement about becoming a national and this, that, and the other, it's time wasting. It's time wasting. While we're arguing about what this is and what this is not, we're still not getting paid the reparations that we are owed. I hear you, sister. You say you don't have an argument at all. You don't have an argument at all. I'm getting a call here. Hey, brother, what's going on? I'm live. No, I'm live right now, brother. How you doing? All right. One of my brothers who understands, the movement with reparations and what we are essentially owed from this country. So with that being said, family, when we come to all these different groups, all these different people, legislators, mayors, governors, senators, congressmen, if they're not talking about direct cash payments to descendants of American slavery, foundational Black Americans, U.S. freedmen, then there is not a conversation to be had. Because when we have to do studies like HR 40, but when you look at other people who didn't have to do a study like Native Americans, who did not have to do a study like the Holocaust survivors that are here in America, that the American government paid them out cash, or the African continent, which we are now giving 55 as an appetizer in reparations, none of them had to do a study. Joe Biden got on national TV and stated the men, women, and children that were stolen and traded out of Africa understood that those people and their descendants went through and are going through unimaginable cruelty. He states that America honors them. First question is, where's the money, Joe? Second question is, how the hell do you honor foundational Black Americans? That's all I got, family. Those are the questions. And then don't let no one tell you that reparations is gold, reparations is silver, reparations is Bitcoin, reparations is land grants, reparations is no taxes, reparations is free TVs, reparations is student loan forgiveness. No, reparations is direct cash payments to descendants of American slaves, aka foundational Black Americans. And it's up into the hundreds of thousands that whether we are 13% or 15%, because they have been really capping our numbers that we're still at 13.4%. I believe that we're close to maybe 15%, around 50 million foundational Black Americans. You do the math, divvy it up, but we're talking about cash here. You guys have a great and wonderful night.